Hello, everyone. I know we have some folks kind of trickling in, but I will go ahead and just introduce myself. My name is Elise Stokes. I'm the doctoral program manager at the Kent School of Social Work and Family Science. So I work with our PhD program as well as our DSW program. Today's info session is for the DSW, so just want to verify that so that you're in the right one. So I don't know if anyone wants to say anything, no pressure, but I'm always curious of what kind of brings prospective students or prospective applicants into the information session. If maybe you've kind of been doing some research about the DSW, or maybe just the position you're currently in, you would like to gain some additional advanced practice and educational experience. So if you feel like sharing, please do, just so I can kind of know who I'm speaking to. But if you don't feel like it, that's okay. But I just want to create space for that.
My name is Matt Weaver. I am the clinical director at St. Vincent de Paul. Just saw this and kind of always been interested in the possibility of a PhD, depending on the time, the availability of, work-life balance, life-work-life school balance, and generally the cost involved
Mm-hmm.
and
Gotcha.
funding opportunities, I guess I would say as well.
Gotcha. And I just want to clarify, because I know you said PhD, this is the Doctor of Social Work and not the Doctor of Philosophy Social Work information session. So
Okay, fair
if you,
enough.
okay, so it's like if your
What
intention
what
is that.
would the degree be? I guess what would be called? Just Doctor of Social Work?
Correct. So this is the DSW.
Yes.
It's advanced practice degree. It's more for scholar practitioners versus research scholars. So if you are interested, I'm just going to type my email in the chat because, like I said, I'm the program manager for both programs. So if you want me to send you some additional information or let you know when we're having those information sessions, I'm happy to chat with you.
Okay.
Anyone else want to just lightly introduce yourself if you feel like it, or just kind of what brought you here? Okay. All right. Well, I shan't waste anybody's time, so I'll go ahead and get started. Again, this is the Doctor of Social Work Perspective Student Information Session. The DSW program team, we are very small. It is me and one other person. So our program director, our interim DSW program director is currently Dr. Heather Storr. She could not be with us today, but very often you'll see program directors try and pop in on these sessions. And then, of course, myself, I've been with the DSW program since 2023. I've been with the PhD program since 2021. So I've had some time to kind of get to know it and get to know our faculty and our curriculum a little bit. So I'm excited to just kind of share what all that's about today. I like to have some photos and faces of our faculty, just so one, you can get kind of a variety of who you'd be learning from. For those of you, if you are an alumna or alumni or an alum, you may already know some of these folks. They have a variety of research interest areas. Dr. Shawnice Miller in particular, she actually works a lot with our experiential pieces within the program, and I'll touch base on those, but she works a lot with our leadership and teaching intensives. So we'll dive into that a little bit later. We also have some additional faculty that I just like to mention. So additional faculty, they don't necessarily teach within the program, but they work in some other capacity. So these two folks here are actually capstone chairs within our program, and they do some other affiliated work with our students from more of a mentorship capacity. We also have some part-time faculty. I don't have their faces on here, but I like to mention them because they are actually previous graduates of our program. So we love it when we can kind of pull people back in as an adjunct, to kind of pay it forward, if you will, and they've been having a pretty good time with our students so far. So our program snapshot, this is the Doctor of Social Work program. It is a graduate level doctoral program, and 44 credit hours is the current status of how many credits you will need to complete your degree. The deadline for applications is March 15th, so that is approaching, but we are, kind of lenient within reason. If I can see that your application is getting started, definitely feel free to keep reaching out to me if you have questions and things like that. That is if you are interested in joining in on the fall 2020 2026 cohort. So just keep that in mind. The deadline's approaching pretty quickly, but again, within reason, and just kind of feel free to reach out if you have questions and things like that. Our program focus, we do like to mention this because some of you all may be interested in more of a clinically focused program, and many DSW programs are. So if you've been kind of doing some research, you can kind of compare and contrast. Our particular program is not clinically focused. So I like to just mention that, so that way if you're kind of in pursuit of things that are in that direction, you know exactly what you're getting with our program. We want to make sure that you're aligning your professional goals with the curriculum as well. So our focus is leadership development and teaching. The duration of the program is 8 continuous semesters. And what we mean by continuous is that you also have courses during the summer. This is also a part-time program, so just want to be mindful of that. So 8 continuous semesters, fall, spring, summer, fall, spring, summer, fall, spring, ideally. Every now and then we have a student that kind of falls over into, you know, a summer semester or something like that, but it is kind of rare. Our faculty are very supportive, and we try and move students through the way the curriculum is designed. Now, it doesn't mean that life doesn't happen. We do have students that sometimes have circumstances and they end up extending their time, but the program is designed to be 8 continuous semesters. As far as cost, our current cost for this current academic year is $850 per credit hour. So you can see the 44 credit hours for the whole program, and you can do the math that way. If you are active military, there is a military rate of $250 a credit hour for right now. If you have any true, like, intricate financial aid questions, I am not your woman for that. But our financial aid office, they are a fabulous team. And so I would just recommend having a more detailed conversation with them and about your circumstances, so that way you can develop some payment plans if you would like, and just kind of see what some other options might be. As far as scholarships for this particular program, we are working on that, but there are no scholarships at this time or assistantships at this time. And a large part of that has to do with it being a part-time program. It is a little bit more challenging. Now, I do have just like some general resources. If you feel like emailing me, feel free. And I'm happy to send you that list of some general resources that you can kind of look into. As far as program highlights, some of this we already covered. One piece I do want to hone in on, because we get this question asked a lot, is this: if the program is truly online, and it is. You do not have to have any residency in the state of Kentucky at all. Orientation completely online. The only time we kind of hope to see students face to face is graduation. So pretty much 2.5 years, you won't really see us outside of, you know, an online or virtual landscape. Your instructors do try and have 2 synchronous sessions with you each term. And I also want to mention our terms are accelerated. So we do 8-week classes, and you have 1 course each 8 weeks. So you're not taking 2 classes at a time, you're taking 1 course at a time. For some people, this works really well. It is accelerated, but you're only taking 1 class at a time. So it kind of lets you conceptualize everything first before moving into the next class. So your instructors do try and meet with you just to create some type of, some time for you to meet with your cohort, and 2, to give you supplemental materials, information, answer questions, things like that. And that was based off of feedback that we received from the other cohorts. Some felt that it was too asynchronous and online. So the program itself, it is asynchronous in the sense of assignment capacity. When you're looking at the materials, all of that is on your own time. Everything is due, to my knowledge, Eastern Standard Time. So just kind of be mindful of that when you're looking at syllabi and things of that nature. Program outcomes: develop scholar practitioners in leadership and teaching in higher education. As I mentioned earlier, if you all hopped in, if you're looking for a PhD in social work, that is more research intensive, and that is not the DSW at all. So I just want to make sure that that's kind of clear. I'm not going to read all of these program goals to you because I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but you can kind of see here just a little bit about what we're leading into with our curriculum. So we do want to train you to analyze data and things like that, especially if you're working in agencies. I once went to a conference and the presenter said, "We can't change the world on hope. We need good data." So some of that will be kind of built into your curriculum, just not as research intensive as a Doctor of Philosophy program. To prepare students to implement social service leadership and knowledge and skills in practice. So many of you are already in practice. This is just to kind of advance those skills a little bit more, give you more of a foundation of the educational aspect as well. Some of you may be looking to pivot into a different professional setting. We do have some students that end up leaning into the teaching side, and they didn't think that they would, and now they're here working adjunct for us. So But and some students end up becoming, program directors and things like that. So it really just depends on your overall, I guess, professional kind of pivot of where you're trying to be. Or not pivot at all. Maybe you just want to excel a little bit where you are. So this is the degree map. So that way you have an opportunity to visually see. One, I want you all to take a look at the course titles so you can see some of the context of the coursework that you would be learning. And the other piece too, I want you to kind of take a look at how we have things split up. So this is kind of what I was talking about earlier of having 8-week terms. So for fall semester, if you were to start this year, for example, in the first 8 weeks of fall, you'll take DSW 700, Social Service Leadership in Teaching and Learning. And then the next 8 weeks of fall, you'll take DSW 701, Ethics, Equity, and Social Justice. So it kind of works like that. And then that is for your complete first year. Something I will mention is that summer is a little bit more accelerated. So in your first summer, those courses are actually 6 weeks long. So 6 weeks, you'll take DSW 704 and DSW 710. And to be honest, I've been in higher ed for a while. I think summer just naturally in most programs can be a little accelerated in general, even if it was just a genuine semester. But I still want to mention it just so you're prepared. For the fall semester, for year 2 as a whole, so for fall semester, you do have your 2 courses, 706 and 707, 706 for the first 8 weeks, 707 for the next 8 weeks. But then you have these intensive courses. And we used to call them practicum, but they're not really practicum at all. They're more of a mentorship experience. And I will dive in a little bit more into that, I think, on the next slide. But I just want to kind of make it aware for right now. So you'll have your 2 courses that you normally take, first 8 weeks, second 8 weeks, and then that intensive course actually lasts the full 14 weeks. Full 16 weeks of those semesters. And then the same thing for the spring. That last summer, you're taking an integrative seminar. You'll actually do your capstone proposal. So I will mention this as well. Some programs, you have a thesis at the end or you have a dissertation at the end. For our program, you have a capstone project at the end. And so your summer is kind of the preparation for that. And then in the fall and spring semester, you're actually fully diving into it. You'll have a capstone mentor that works with you. You'll also have a committee. So you're not walking into it completely by yourself. So let's dive into the experiential learning since we already kind of touched on that. So as I mentioned, we have leadership and teaching intensives. They used to be called practicums, but they're not that at all. There was no set hours or anything like that. So it was very confusing for people. So we changed the name to intensives. And basically what it is for your leadership practicum, you're identifying a professional mentor that either has a set of skills that you hope to obtain. So for example, let's say your position doesn't really require grant writing or something like that, and you want to deep dive into grant writing and the financial side and maybe how that process works in that aspect. Or maybe you want to, kind of learn more about IRB processes, or maybe you want to excel in a specific position that you're in if you're a supervisor and you want to become a director of some kind. So it leaves it very open to you of identifying that person, because we also very often have students who are private practice, for example. So it kind of leaves it open to you of the skill set that you are hoping to obtain. If you have difficulty locating a leadership mentor, we can always try and identify a person for you. But because you all are kind of spread out and you all work in different sectors and different agencies and things like that, we want to try and make it as close to home for you as possible. So truly, students end up identifying their own person, usually at their place of employment. But again, if you're private practice, that may look a little bit different for you. Same thing with the teaching intensives. So the idea for the teaching intensives is that you have some experience teaching in academia and higher education. Usually what we will do, if a student is already teaching a class, then it kind of works in your favor a little bit. Your objectives will look much different, and they're going to be tailored a little bit different if that ends up being the case for you. And you'll work with our, teaching incentive liaison, Dr. Shawnee Miller, and she can kind of help tailor some of those things. So, because we get that a lot with like either private practice or even like I'm already teaching. So we do try and tailor some objectives and things so that way you're still getting the most out of the class. The other 2 pieces I will mention, both for the leadership intensive and the teaching intensive, we try and have a teaching portfolio for you all by the end and a leadership portfolio for you all by the end of those 2 semesters. So that's the other piece. Again, with the teaching intensives, if you're already teaching, that kind of works in your favor. If you want to work or teach at a university near you, we encourage it. We do have to go through like a university contract process, but it's pretty simple, to be honest. So that happens a lot as well, either where they're already teaching or they just want to teach closer to the community. The other piece too is that if you cannot locate a teaching facility or you're having a difficult time finding a professor, should we say, then we'll kind of help you connect with someone over at Kent. So the idea is that the first part of that semester, you're kind of in that observation sort of mode of pedagogy and how to implement curriculum and creating course plans and all that. And then that second part, you're actually co-teaching the course. So that's kind of why we want you to identify someone, or if you're already teaching, like I said, it may look completely different. Are there any questions about either of those things? I know that was kind of fast, but various scenarios come up, but we do try and kind of alleviate those things. So the other main
Yes, I
piece
have a
is,
question. I'm so
sure,
sorry.
go ahead.
For the leadership intensive, what does, I guess, that relationship hope to look like with the student and whoever they decide on for their mentor? Do they have to come into an agreement with University of Louisville as well?
So not a legitimate contract. The only time it's a legitimate contract is when students are actually teaching at another institution. Because the leadership is more of a mentorship piece, it looks a little bit different. So we don't require a university contract for that. You will still identify them and there'll be like I guess you could say more like a course contract, but it's not like a legally binding contract with an affiliation agreement the way it is with like an actual institution.
Mm,
So it looks a little different, but you'll still have
okay.
like a set of objectives. You'll still have to report to, in this case, Dr. Miller, or maybe another assigned instructor on the section of who exactly you're doing it with and, kind of your intention, your goals. But there's like a true outline within the course assignment. So you all can formulate that agreement together with your leadership intensive person.
Okay. So there are like expectations of meeting with them, like supervision, I guess, maybe something like that.
So what we do is we recommend, because there's not like it's not like practicum. So it's not like, oh, I have to make 20 hours a semester or something like that. But we recommend that
Mm,
you at least meet with your mentor at least once a week to kind of like see the progression of where you are with your objectives and your goals and things like that. But it's a
And
recommendation, should I say.
okay, but they wouldn't be necessarily giving us assignments to do,
Not you'll have assignments in the class, yes.
but not the leader, like the mentor isn't going
Correct.
to be
Yes.
giving us assignments. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Okay. I will move on to the capstone project. Excuse me. We're actually about to start this up, so it's always exciting every single semester of what students end up doing. So it is an original evidence-informed practice. There's either data collection or secondary analysis. So we do a little bit of that. The other piece too is we want to have the project inform future practice or teaching and learning. So we're actually having a panel. I guess this can be a shameless plug because I'm going to actually put this in the chat. We're having a panel on the 18th if you are interested in registering for it. You may have already received some information about it, but anyway, we are inviting some of our alumni to come back. So they're actually going to be talking about how their capstone has informed practice and how the program itself has informed their practice and things like that. So feel free to come. The link is in the chat. Capstone projects, it really just, I think it usually identifies with the student's passion. So for example, I had a student, she did hers on where are all the Black LCSWs, what are the barriers within the exam. I had another student do theirs on the burnout of medical social workers. I had another student who was military affiliated. He wanted to kind of pilot a program that was geared toward the mental health of fathers within the military kind of unit that he was in. So there's no like cut and dry assignment for the capstone. What is helpful is for students as they come into the program to be thinking about what they would like their capstone to be. We also had one person do hers. It was almost more from an HR perspective, but it was like an implementation or evaluation of current practices within her workplace. So there's a variety of things that you can do. So just be thinking about the populations that you work with, some of the policy change you're kind of noticing that either doesn't exist or may need some revision, or what you can evaluate and analyze and implement. Some of those pieces are going to be very helpful if you can kind of think about it as you move through. What we hope happens is that with each assignment that you have as you progress in the program, you're kind of linking it to your capstone in some way. So that way it doesn't feel so overwhelming, but when you get to the end, but also you kind of feel like, okay, I'm applying these experiences, because that is what the program is meant to do, is to have you actively apply those content pieces as you move along. So it's kind of coinciding with your professional goals. The capstone project is of 2 parts. You do have a basically like a manuscript that you're developing, or a capstone paper as we call it. And you also have a presentation. So my time is booked for like the next 2 weeks, because we will have back-to-back presentations, kind of what you would expect, PowerPoint, kind of showing all the things that you did for your project, how you collected your data, or if you're using secondary data, you know, that kind of thing, and moving through the process of your either policy change or your concern, or what have you, the social problem that you're kind of noticing and trying to resolve. So just kind of be thinking of those things as you move through the process. During the capstone project, like I mentioned earlier, you do have an assigned capstone chair, so it is a faculty member. The other piece that I forgot to mention is that majority of our program consists of full-time faculty. So even our students that come on as adjunct, they are a part of a section, but they are not considered the full-time faculty affiliate over the actual course. So I do want to mention that because I think it's a worthy note. So you'll have your capstone mentor, and you'll also have a committee that kind of walks you through the process. So you're not totally alone in that. You do have some support. So this is really quick. I only have this one slide. I know I kind of mentioned it earlier for someone who was in here, Matt. So this is just a quick drive of DSW versus PhD. How I like to look at it is that you have research intensive programs like the PhD that really work on that data collection piece. And then you have folks on the DSW from the policy angle of, okay, this is what the data says. This is why we need to change this policy. That's a very like short synopsis of how I feel like the 2 programs can sometimes coincide and work together. The DSW is an advanced practice degree. So I want to mention that, like, it is more focused on practice, whereas the PhD program is more research intensive. You do have more methods geared toward analysis and research. The DSW program touches on it because it is important for policy and change and advocacy and that community aspect, especially in the realm of social justice and transitions. But it's not as heavy as the PhD program, but necessary, just so everyone kind of knows what all they're doing. What can you do with the DSW degree? So this is not all inclusive because we have so many students from different areas in different industries. So this is just a light bubble. If you do not see your bubble, please don't be offended. It's just something quick that we can kind of group folks together. And they're probably the most common. So consulting and training, policy practitioner, we see that the most often, probably nonprofit administrator, community activist, faculty, or administrator. Very much I get students who are interested, or prospective students interested in both programs, the PhD and the DSW, and just through talking with them, I usually can tell like which one they're probably best suited for. And very often those that are highly interested in policy change, I usually direct them towards the DSW degree. What it takes to be a successful doctoral student. So many of you have not been in school for a while. So this seems like very, plain information, and I hope it's clear. Communication success, ask questions, ask for assistance sooner than later. It is a transition, and there's no other way to say it. You're a professional already. You have work already. You have a life already. You have certain either commitments or obligations or things that you do. So it is going to be a transition to come back into that student mode. So feel free to ask as many questions as possible. It is going to be an adjustment, even with your time, trying to create time to make sure that you're able to study and complete your coursework week and work through the module materials and all of those things. So as things arise, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes with our students, life happens and we're very aware of that. And we try and work with that student as much as possible to alleviate some of the stress on the academic side so that they're able to take care of themselves and whatever they need to do for the circumstance. But it's easier to provide options the sooner we kind of know what's going on. Study success, creating your space. I'm currently in an online program myself, and it's also accelerated. And so I cannot stress the importance of just carving out the time. And for each student, it works completely different. Some students like to, do whatever they need to do if they have a family, and then they choose to do their work at, 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. when everything's, calm. Some people bulk it on a weekend. Some people, get everything done in between the day, in the morning, and on their breaks or whatever. So it's really just whatever will work for you. Something that I suggest prospective students to think about is what all you have going on, what all your commitments are, and what support system do you have that can kind of either take things off your plate temporarily, or what can you sacrifice temporarily while you're in the program that you may not be able to do. So if you're someone who volunteers a lot, or you have you work 80 hours a week or whatever, do you have a support system either with your supervisors or with your family or with someone that can kind of help you balance some of those things for the next 2.5 years? The other piece too, I know I mentioned, be thinking of your capstone topic just kind of as you move through the program. You don't have to know it right when you come in, but it's helpful to think about. So just kind of bear that in mind. The other piece too is just generally take care of yourself. So make sure you're resting. You can't run on fumes, and we want you to be successful. The other piece too is as you're coming through the program, give yourself some grace because, like I said, it is going to be a transition process. So as far as the DSW study, we do expect everyone to attend orientation if possible. The orientation sessions begin in July, so that first week, you're expected to have an orientation session. We actually divided ours out because it worked better for students. So when you meet with your instructors during the academic year, it will always be on a Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will let you know what those 2 dates are. So when we have orientation, we have your sessions on a Wednesday night at 7 p.m. to kind of get you used to that process. So for the month of July, you'll have 4 sessions, 1 session each week. The sessions will have some sort of topic to help prepare you for coming in the fall. Your courses will start usually the second week of August. So just kind of keep that in mind. So you'll have your 4 weeks of orientation, a session each week, and they'll usually entail APA style, for example, if you haven't been using it. So some academic writing modules will be in there. There'll be a search of the literature to kind of see where you're at with reviewing those pieces. There will be kind of a general lesson on how to use Blackboard, a general lesson on how to utilize our data search engines with the university. So you'll kind of have these pieces to help prepare you before you roll into the program. Some of you all may be familiar with Blackboard. That is the learning module that we use, or the platform that we use here at the University of Louisville, but it's just trying to get you acclimated so that you don't feel so lost when you come in. The transition period is going to happen regardless, but we try and do what we can to kind of help prepare you. Expected performance, doctoral level writing skills, of course, and you'll notice if you've already started the application process that there is a prompt on the checklist for you to basically have a writing sample and answer a certain specific amount of questions and have it in APA style and things like that to kind of get you used to that process. Completion of weekly course workload is a minimum of 12 to 15 hours per week or more, depending on the individual. So you'll have learning modules that you need to complete. There will be assignments, of course, to accompany it. So just make sure that you're able to carve out this time so that way you can be successful. 2 to 3 synchronous classes per 8-week course. I've honestly never seen a professor do 3. It's usually just 2. Again, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, initiate any questions or concerns if you have personal things that come up. So we have a Synergist seminar. It's actually been coupled with the capstone, the DSW Capstone Connect. So the Synergist seminar really is a chance to, one, connect with your cohort, but two, over specific milestone questions within the program. So this may look like practicum questions. This may look like supplemental materials for your portfolio. This may look like capstone preparation. It just kind of varies, but we try and tie it back into the program. All cohorts are invited to attend these sessions. It's also a way where you create some peer mentorship. So there's almost always going to be attendees from a cohort, well, if you come in fall 2026, cohorts above you, that can kind of offer advice and kind of walk you through some of the process. They've already had the professors, they've already done the assignments. So it's just a helpful way for students to kind of connect as a group. Occasionally, there will be other professors that come in or other faculty from just different facets. So it may be capstone chairs coming in that don't necessarily teach in the class, but they're going to come in and just kind of explain some of the mentorship pieces that you can expect for that third year and things like that. Occasionally guest speakers who have had a profession utilizing their DSW or in some other facet utilizing advanced practice. So sometimes students also can gain some capstone insight from that as well. As far as the general requirements for application, so must have a cumulative master's GPA of a 3.0. This is a graduate school stipulation, not so much a program stipulation, and completed an MSW or MSSW degree from a CSWE accredited program with 3 years postmaster's experience. This is because we are prepping for accreditation. For those of you who have been keeping tabs on that, we received all of the information last summer. Every university that was not a part of the pilot. So we're all on the same timeline, but we're trying to make sure that we're meeting all the needs that we need to meet. I get the question a lot of, does it have to be 3 years postmasters? And it does. Does experience, substitute? It does not. So I just wanted to make that clear here, and it does have to be an MSW or MSSW degree. Currently employed in a human service setting and possess strong oral and written communication skills. For the application requirement, once you complete the graduate application, which is completely online, you'll pay a $65 application fee, and you'll need to submit submit official college transcripts from all previous institutions. So any place where you have obtained credit, you would need to submit an official college transcript. If you are a previous U of L grad, we can pull your University of Louisville graduate transcript for you. So just keep that in mind. Personal statement of goals for pursuing the DSW degree utilizing the prompt. The prompts are located on the website. So if you've been already kind of browsing around and looking, you've probably already seen the checklist to apply. And so the prompt is located there. Your current resume or CV, your writing sample. There is a prompt with a writing sample as well. 3 letters of recommendation. So if you have some contacts from your previous academic experience, you can feel free to use those, but we're also looking for perhaps supervisors or someone that can kind of attest to your skill set or how you would be prepared to come into a doctoral program and setting and things like that. So kind of just be thinking about someone who might be familiar with your work and academic ability. Kind of moving through this, it looks like I may have replicated this page, so I apologize. But again, here's an example of the personal statement, 2 to 3 page single space, 12-point font, again, with the prompts. And the prompts, I'll say this, you don't have to remember anything on this slide of, the format or things like that. All of the prompts are on the website. As far as the writing sample, again, prompt is on the website. Describe a social problem, explain why it's a social problem, include references. Again, this is to kind of see that concept of APA style in your current academic writing level. Application process. So once you submit your application, I'm actually the first reviewer of it just to make sure that you have all of the application materials. I don't pass it on to the committee if it's an incomplete application. So make sure that you have all of your references, all of your official transcripts, all of those things. So that way when I look at it, I can say, okay, great, everything's there, looks good, they meet the requirements, I can pass it on to the committee. The committee review takes, well, it kind of depends, but usually it takes about a week. And you'll have members of the committee review, they'll make notes, they'll kind of use like a rubric more or less to kind of see how things are looking. And then from there, we extend an invitation for an interview. After the interview, I would say it's usually a week or so, sometimes more, sometimes less, on whether or not that applicant will receive an actual offer of admission. It is up to the applicant to accept that offer, deny that offer, or decline rather, or defer their admission. So that is sometimes that comes up. Applicants can defer for 1 year. So again, oh, I forgot to change this to fall 2026, but for fall 2026, March 15th is the deadline, and then August 2026 would be the class start. So I know that that's a lot of information. At the beginning, I had mentioned various things as far as tuition costs and credits and things like that. The best office to kind of go over that with, or any payment plan options and things like that, would be our student financial aid office. So their email address is pretty easy, just finaid@louisville.edu, 502-852-5511. And again, there's no scholarships or assistantships at this time. It is something that we are working on, but at this time we just don't have any. Some of the additional support that we do try to provide, one is Grammarly. Students who enroll are automatically provided with this subscription. Of course, you have some general services from the university that are also offered in an online format. So library services, the data search engines, virtual writing center, these are things that you have available to you as an online student. You don't have to come to the university for. The writing sample in particular, they do have, they do have doctoral students or graduate level in their dissertation phase that are able to take a look at your writing and help you review. You can meet online. You can do a synchronous session or asynchronous session. So we do try and have some other resources available to students so that they get kind of the same thing that our students get on campus. So Blackboard Help Desk, of course, information and technology as expected since this is an online program. And then, of course, we have our learning team that works in our online learning team in the Delphi Center. And you also have the DSW Program contact, which is actually myself. This is the primary account, but I'm the owner over that account as well. So I did pop my email in the chat, but if you also email this, I get it anyway. So I know this was a lot of information. Are there any questions that I can kind of answer right now?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Is it only a fall start, no spring starts, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Other questions?
And if we can't get our application submitted by March 15th, is there like another hard deadline? Or will
There's
it just be looked at as if there's,
as able, yeah, kind of is
yeah.
what you're looking into. So we'll take a look at the first initial pool, and then as applications trickle in, something that does come up, because this happens in my other program as well. If we have already kind of interviewed folks, we have our pool, etc., I will usually just reach out to the applicant and suggest them to defer their application if they would like, because if the application is that late. So that's always another option. But there's not an extended deadline officially just yet. We're just going to see kind of what the pool sort of brings in.
Thank you.
Anything else? And Matt, to your point in the chat, I usually won't send the PowerPoint, but you are going to receive this recording anyway, so you'll still have the access to the recording. As far as financial resources, I can send you a list. So if you all are interested in that, just email me. Like I said, it's a general list. Most of it's not university affiliated, but it's just some things that you can look into. Okay. Well, if no other questions, I will let you all reclaim your time. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with me today. out of your busy schedule that I'm sure you have. So please just reach out to me with questions if you have them. dswkent@louisville.edu. That is the easiest general email address. So feel free to email me if you have questions that come up later.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Let me make sure I'm answering everything in this chat. Okay. All right. Bye, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.